Pittsburgh Steelers fans, it is time once again to get your hangover fix. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. I am the podcast producer. Alongside with me is one of my best buddies in the world, especially when we're talking black and gold. His name is Anthony Julius Defeo. Tony Jules, what's up, my friend?
I am doing fantastic. And kudos to you. You pulled a Chris Berman this weekend. You were just a marathon man. Your eyes are probably hurting right now.
I appreciate that. I definitely have to give props to the entire podcast team as well as the entire editorial team. Everything that everybody did this weekend. If you didn't hear Tony a lot this weekend, it didn't matter because he was writing 6 articles. If you heard a lot of Dave Schofield, you did. You heard him doing all of the breaking news for the draft for every single pick. We even threw in an extra one in there with number 5, trading in for number 5, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. You heard him going crazy, and then he turned around, besides his editorial duties, jumps on all the roundtables. The reason I wasn't on all the roundtables, I was making sure all those shows were getting set up as the producer. That's my job. You heard Jeff Hartman the first 2 nights. He was working like crazy the last day. Man, it was a team effort. One of the best teams in the blogosphere. I will say that. I mean, I know I'm biased, but I will definitely say that. So thank you so much. We had so many great comments about our coverage. We dreamed this up a while back, and we are going to continue to do this and make it bigger and better every single time. So I really appreciate everybody here, and we cannot do it with all of you pouring into the live chat, being fans, messaging us. We do it because we love the Steelers, but we do it because you love the Steelers, and we are blessed to have this platform. So thank you. We would not have this platform without any of you. So let's go ahead and get this going, Tony. The Steelers, the draft, it's over. We talked about the draft like crazy.
Oh, did we ever?
And we never got tired of it, and we kept on trying to put a fresh spin on it. In fact, I even ended up getting draft delirium. I did mock drafts every single day after the picks. None of my picks were right whatsoever for the Steelers. I couldn't get a single one. I thought I was going to get the Creed Humphrey one right. Nope, not a thing. So did this draft go the way you expected, Tony?
I mean, as far as they address, I think we all knew that they were looking for several starters. I think it's safe to say that they were looking for starters at several different positions, and you can't address them all with premium picks, as we know. But I think their first three picks were definitely calculated. They needed a center, they got that in the 3rd. They needed a tight end, they got that in the 2nd. They needed a running back, they got that in the 1st. A lot of people are disagreeing about the order, the combination, but you can't argue the fact that they got 3 players who could come in and very easily start, if not from day one, sooner rather than later. So it went pretty much how I expected it.
So I'm going to bring up Doc Holliday here. A few head scratching, but got to trust Colbert. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's always going to be some head scratchers, but it's funny. And I say this all the time, and I don't say this to belittle anybody, but I'll just use myself for an example. I didn't know who some of these guys were. I've never heard of Presley Harvin. I never have. I'm excited about Presley Harvin, and we'll talk about the punter from Georgia Tech, the big fella. We will be talking about him, and I've already named him, Tony. I'm going to say that now. He's a giant dude. He could be a superstar. Why don't we just call this guy Elvis?
Woo! And I love it. And he's a prime candidate to be a fan favorite right off the bat. You just know it.
He is, and we're going to talk about that when we get to our card shark section of the Hangover, which we're going to do today. I don't know who these guys are. I don't have the scouting that the Steelers do have. And one thing that I keep going back to every single time, Tony, is the number 24. And it's like scripting picks. Okay? You know how Bill Walsh started this way back when in the late 70s. And so what I'm saying here is he would script the first 25 plays, and all teams do that now. But what I'm saying here is the Steelers script 24 players.
Right.
And Colbert said that they do. And so Mike Tomlin said, yeah, I live in a vacuum. I don't listen to anybody on the radio, on the TV, any of the media that says this is who the Steelers are going to pick. We make our list, and we know who's on our list. So these guys seem to be on their list for a reason. You know, it's funny, as much as a lot of us downplayed the trade, which was a little bit of a head scratcher because we're not familiar with Isaiah Loudermilk, but with 2 H's, by the way, we're not familiar with him. But the thing about Isaiah Loudermilk, you said it before, somebody was a champion for him and somebody pressed him hard. And you're not going to get by Colbert and Tomlin easy.
Right.
So, I mean, he had to have been on the list.
Right. So they had to know something that the rest of us didn't know. Their big board is way different than our big board.
Because we're not privy to it.
Right.
So, so that's why I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, like a lot of people are. I'm not going to grade this draft. I never do. I mean, I did. I went ahead and put a grade in on the article that we did because, that's what we're doing. I have no problem doing that. But I really can't grade these individual players because I don't know who they were. If you go back in time, after the 2016 season, Artie Burns had a pretty good grade. I think he was grading out at a B after his rookie season.
Right. Yeah, he had a good rookie, really good.
Then things fell apart.
Yeah.
Troy Polamalu and Cam Hayward are great examples of guys that people weren't so sure about after their rookie seasons. There was glimpses with Polamalu. There wasn't much at all with Hayward. No one's going to say now when you have a Hall of Famer and another guy that's going to be a Steeler Hall of Honor.
Absolutely.
Guy in Hayward. If he's not, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to speculate on that right now. I think right now, maybe not, but possibly. But he's definitely, what do they call it? Is it a Hall of Honor or Great Hall or
Hall of Honor? And just the fact that we're speculating on whether or not Cam Hayward can make it to the Hall of Fame, that tells you what kind of career he's had. So, but he didn't have, we didn't know much about him the first year that he was here. He was learning that complicated zone blitz defense that was in place back then.
Look at a guy that got another contract with the Steelers. And that would be our guy, Cortez Allen. Not our guy, but from the Citadel. I mean, he was early on, he was pretty good. Then things started to fall apart maybe after he got that contract. So it's really funny how things go with these picks. I went against what I do. Normally, I try not to fall in love with picks. Dave Schofield always talks about don't fall in love with a prospect, fall in love with a position, maybe, that you want them to address. But be careful because they might end up wearing purple. Well, my draft crush ended up wearing brown and orange, and that's Anthony Schwartz. He went a lot earlier than I thought he was going to go. But, man, they got fast with that guy. And now I have to root against him. The guy that I loved for 4 months is now public enemy number one.
Yeah, it changes quickly depending on where they go.
So we're going to talk about these draft picks, and we're going to have some fun with this too. So the Steelers were dealt a hand. They chose their hand, but the hand that they dealt themselves is going to include 9 new cards. And even more than that, when we get into the undrafted free agents, 2 that I absolutely love at the same position. I'm really excited about these guys. I think they got steals with undrafted free agents with some of these guys. But with these cards, you have different cards that you hope for when you're playing blackjack, when you're playing poker, whatever you're playing, you want some special cards here. So I have 5 special cards that I'm going to bring up here. And I'm going to have you basically tell me what card we were dealt with a particular player that you think exemplifies this card. So let's go with the Ace of Diamonds. Who is the Steelers' best pick? The Ace of Diamonds in this draft.
I know it sounds too easy to say, it has to be Najee Harris. I mean, he was the best running back on the board according to many people. They needed a running back. They needed a franchise running back to change their direction as an offense. They needed somebody who could fit Matt Canada's scheme. They talked a lot about that. I mean, and apparently he's really good in the zone blocking scheme. I don't know much about that. Kevin Smith and those guys they're really the experts there. But yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player. He's productive. He was a team leader at Alabama, big time school. Their all-time leading rusher. It has to be Najee.
30 touchdowns for this guy, and I have been watching a lot of stuff. Jeff Hartman mentioned this little docuseries on the internet, and I started watching it. A really great kid.
Yeah.
How he came up from struggling and nothing, and to get where he is. Where I am in the documentary right now is after his freshman season in Alabama, when he was ready to check out. And so it's really, really good stuff. I think he's going to be a superstar. Now, we were talking about this the other night. There were a lot of people mixed about this pick.
Right.
Because they were mixed about the pick because you've got what comes first, the chicken or the egg. And somebody brought this up. It's a chicken or the egg situation, because do you get the offensive lineman to block for him, or do you get the guy that could run?
Right.
I know they go hand in hand, but you don't have 2 first-round picks. And the only time in my lifetime that they had 2 first-round picks was 1989. They got a running back and they got the offensive tackle, and they both disappointed. I'm talking about Tim Worley in 1989 from the University of Georgia and the University of Pittsburgh's very own Tom Ricketts. They did not work out as the number 1 draft picks, and they had 2 of them. They came over in that Mike Merriweather trade. So they had to decide what they were going to do here. And they decided, and they went with the runner first.
Right. And that Tim Worley pick, I mean, that was a no-brainer at the time. I mean, Najee Harris is more of it's mixed reviews in turn depending on who you're talking to. But Tim Worley was considered a no-brainer. He was the pick, and we saw how that turned out. So, yeah, this is not an exact science, and we say this all the time. Everybody says it, but it's the truth. If they would have picked a lineman, well, people would have said, well, what about the running back? What about if say they picked Trey Sermon in the 3rd round? A lot of people were calling him Benny Snell. I saw reading a lot of the comments, and people saying, we don't need another Benny Snell in here. So, it's like you have to decide. You had the best running back on the board, and you had a tackle class that was deep that people kept saying you could get a guy later in the draft. Well, maybe that's what they did with their 4th round pick.
And we'll talk about him as well. So now let's look at another card here, because we could talk about Najee Harris all day. And he did come out and say it is Najee, which I was not aware of. I thought it was Najee, but it is Najee that he wants to be called. So I will go ahead and call him that correctly. But I'm excited about this pick because I love how dynamic he is. You just saw I put Ezra's comment up on the board that Barry Sanders never had a line, so you take the egg first, or whatever he called it. I lost it, but that's a pretty good comment. Tate Boys is saying this here. He's saying Emmitt Smith wouldn't be the all-time rusher without the chicken, which is the O-line. So, there's different ways to look at it. I want to talk about the guy that went right after Najee Harris, and it's Travis Etienne. Mm-hmm. And I love that guy too, but I just don't think he's as durable as what you're going to see out of Najee Harris. I just think this guy has the chance to be a superstar. If they could put together a line, which I think they're on their ways to doing it. I think they were on their way to doing it before this draft because of a run blocking phenom like a Kevin Dotson, David DeCastro. Yes, he's up there in age, in football age. However, he was hurt a lot of last year. Right. I don't think he's done. you have a guy in Zach Banner who is known as a run blocker.
Right.
So, and he's going to be your right tackle as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the left tackle right now is Chukwuekorfor. I mean, maybe they need to improve somewhere along those lines, but and they do, and they try to address that. So let's go ahead and pull another card out of the hand here. I'm going to look for the King of Hearts here, which the King of Hearts would be your fan favorite, Tony.
Well, for me personally, as much as I love the punter. I love the punter. How can you not? But it's got to be Kendrick Green. I think he's going to be. That video of him celebrating and with his whole family, that intensity. It kind of reminded me of David Putty and from Seinfeld. The devil, let's go, let's get it on. It's like I just can't stop laughing. I love that. It's so endearing. And like when you have that moment, if we're all that lucky to realize what our dream. And that moment when he knew he was going to be in the NFL, a Pittsburgh Steeler, I mean, his whole life flashed before him, and that his dream came true. And it was just like, I just love that intensity. He looked like he was ready to block somebody right then and there. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I really think that he is the fan favorite of this draft. A lot of people in the live chat, and you're right, they're yelling out Presley. They love Presley as a fan favorite. But Kendrick Green is more of a favorite to make this team, I will tell you that, than Presley, because Presley still has to win the job, and it's one man wins the job. Right. I think he wins the job over Jordan Berry. I think this guy, I know there's a lot of personality behind him, being a big dude. We saw a clip the other day, which we won't be showing clips on YouTube anymore. I will just say that. We got a little we got told about that from YouTube, so our bad. But so he can throw the ball on a fake punt. I mean, this guy's huge.
Yeah.
But I like what Kendrick Green does here. I saw some clips of him playing center. He played more last season as a guard. So the big question is how he transitions in the pros to a full-time center, and that's where they're going to try to make him. We've seen it before. We've seen guards in college that played predominantly guard move over to center and do well. I mean, I think Dermontti Dawson did very well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't realize this, and I said it wrong before. I said it the next year they drafted a center. No. In 1988, the first round pick was Aaron Jones out of Eastern Kentucky. The second round pick was from Kentucky, and it was Dermontti Dawson, who was a guard. The third round pick in 1988 was a Notre Dame center named Chuck Lanza.
Right.
And Chuck did not make it. They the next year they moved Dermontti over. The rest is Hall of Fame history. So that's great. Back to Kendrick Green. I think he's got the personality. He definitely has the personality. He definitely has the work ethic too. And we're going to talk about work ethic with another one of these. But he just seems to me he seems like a Pouncey. He could be the long.
That's what I was going to say. Right. Same number and everything.
Same number, which I'm predicting he does not get that number. I'm telling you right now.
Oh, no.
Don't expect him to get 53.
Absolutely not.
So James Galway says Jeff Hardings. Jeff Hardings is another guy. For the when he was with the Lions, he was drafted as a guard and then became a center. Right. And did he play center? Did he play center in Detroit? I would think that he did. Or
I want to say he was a guard in Detroit. I think he was a guard, but I could be wrong. He was
drafted as a guard, but I'm wondering if he comes over to Pittsburgh and is transitioned to a center. I don't know. That's something that I'd love to know, and I'm sure somebody out there knows that. Let us know, because I wasn't prepared for that one, but great. Thanks for bringing that one up. That's a good one there. Another thing about this guy, I'll have a nickname for him already, and I'm giving him the nickname of Son of Mr. 2 a.m. because he seems like a Mr. 2 a.m. guy. If you see the picture that came out,
I love that picture
with the car and and the women, and he's just in the middle, basically.
And he's not even a pro. He doesn't even have a job yet, and he already has all those women. I don't even know how he pulled it off, but good for him.
Sadie says, I'm with you, Bad. Granted, it's too early to tell, but I really like what I heard in Steelers press conferences about Green's leadership skills and presence in the locker room. Reminds me a lot of what we always heard about Pouncey in regards to being a leader, and might be what we need for our struggling and transitioning O-line. Sadie said, well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And it goes right along with Najee Harris. He excels at what zone blocking, right? That's the scheme at Illinois. Was that? Am I right? So they have a new coordinator, and they're making picks that fits his system. You got. It's hard to argue with that.
I hope I pronounced his name right. Ed Schussler says he was a guard in Detroit. So I guess he was a full-time guard, and he transitioned when he came over to Pittsburgh. That's what it seems to be. So Ed also says that Green was a state championship wrestler and mean. Love it. Definitely love it. We've seen championship wrestlers by one of my hometown guys, Carlton Hasselrig out of Pitt Johnstown, where I went to college, who was a 6-time NCAA champion. May he rest in peace. He came here as a defensive lineman when they were called something different. They weren't called the practice squad. They were called the developmental squad back then. Mm-hmm. And so he spent a year as a defensive lineman. They moved him over to tackle on the offensive side, and man, he was good. And he went to a Pro Bowl. So Ezra says Najee equals January football. I love that. I'm bringing that up on the board. I absolutely love that. Wes says, I brought Wes up by accident, but I like this. Let me tell you, Jerome Bettis won a Super Bowl behind that line.
Yeah, Marvell Smith, Hardings, obviously Faneca. Great line. Kendall Simmons.
And Ed's an Illini fan too. And Kevin Johnston also sent me some film of him, who lives in Illinois, a Steeler fan as well, and was saying, hey, you're going to love this guy. So I really think he could be a very good King of Hearts for us here. So, Tony, this is what we're going to do. We've got a few more cards to talk about. We've got the 8 of clubs, who's our blue-collar guy. We've got the Joker, and we've got the wild card, and we are going to talk about that when we come back for the second half of BTSC's Steelers Hangover. Check us out if you are on any of our platforms where you download your favorite podcast. I hope this is one of them. All you have to do is go on over to number 2. If you're hanging out on Facebook or YouTube, just stick around. Just give a 5-second stretch, and we'll be back right after this. You always flex when you
Well, I've been sprinting. They say sprinting is supposed to build a muscle. I don't know. Jeff might know more now. He's the fitness guy. He might know.
He is. Every time you stretch, you do the flex. I love it, Tony. Right. Welcome back to the Hangover. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Flexin' Tony Def is on the other side of the mic as well, and we are talking about the NFL draft. From Najee to Presley, we've got 9 new Steelers. We're going to talk about them all. We've talked about a few of them. We've already talked about Najee Harris. We have had an opportunity to talk about Kendrick Green as well, and a little bit of Presley Harvin, the new punter, a big, big man. I can't wait to see this guy. It's a shame that the new jersey rules don't apply to punters. I wanted to see like a huge number on this guy.
That'd be number 99.
Yeah, I wanted to see like either that or double zeros. I mean,
yeah.
Well, you could possibly give out 0 again. I mean, that would be great. Jerry Cherryman just called you Tony Guns. I love it.
Yeah. I guess it's at this point I would welcome that. Almost 49. So.
Yeah. And hey, just gotta let you know, Bad Itch is here. He's sorry he's late, but he's only here so he doesn't get fined.
Well, these are OTAs, so I think it's voluntary.
I'm finding them. Badich. I don't know what I'm finding you. You might have to break out a super chat. I'm fine.
Sorry, Badich. He makes the rules.
See, he's just BAD itch. I'm capital B, capital A, capital D.
There you go.
So, there you go, Badich. It's good to see you. See all these names. This is the best part as we go along. And it took a while for the Facebook folks because we just started getting Facebook folks in November or December. So it took a while, but now I'm getting to know all of these names. And we have 184 in the live chat. And as we go, we see more and more that we're so familiar with. And that's why we love for you to be a part of this family. Jeff Kozlowski, I'm going to make fun of myself. He's making fun of me. One of my favorite moments of the draft was when Jeff and the boys were making fun of Bad's full moon. I realized that I was running out of battery on my laptop, and I rushed in to start the show, and I didn't plug it in. So I thought I was off mic, and I bent over, and you saw my big butt in the on the screen. So I'm sorry about that. Luckily, I wasn't wearing a belt, but luckily you didn't see skin. You just saw a giant pair of jeans. They weren't Wranglers. I wear Adam Levine jeans. So
wow.
Yeah, I got them years ago. They're the most comfortable jeans. The Maroon 5 lead singer has good jeans. And I'm not talking about genealogy either. I'm talking about blue jeans. They're good stuff. I don't even know if they make them anymore. I need to see if I could find some more. But yeah, Bad's big butt. Yeah,
I'm sorry I missed that. I should have tuned in. I should have been on the podcast. I guess I missed out.
And you know what? I didn't even get any super chats for my big butt, and that's disappointing. You would think my giant onion would have gotten me some super chat money. Farlap's giving me $1, I guess. I guess it's for my butt. Thanks, Farlap. I appreciate it. All right, let's go on. We've talked about some of these. Some of these are going to get interesting. Now, I made up this list, so I didn't assign names. I don't even know who Tony's assigning to them. The 8 of clubs. So I'm thinking the 8 of clubs, it's still a valuable card, but it's one of those blue collar cards. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely. Right in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
So it could get you a straight, it could be part of a full house,
Yeah. I mean, it's important. All the cards are important.
Right.
But so who's your blue collar guy from this draft, Tony? Who's the one that you think is going to have to work hard, but will work hard, and that will be a very valuable member of this team?
I'm thinking it could be Buddy Johnson, the second 4th round pick out of A&M. He reminds me, just from reading about him and watching some highlights, he reminds me a lot of Vince Williams. He's picked a little higher than Vince was, 6th round in 2013, but he's a team leader. He's forceful. He's good around the line of scrimmage. He's somebody who could come in maybe and steal one of those or the second inside linebacker job. If not this year, maybe in a year or so.
So he was more of my questionable pick just because I don't know enough about him. I'm actually going to go in another direction on this one. I agreed with you on the other two. My 8 of clubs is I actually think it's going to be Dan Moore Jr., also of Texas A&M. I really think this is a guy that is going to have to work hard. He's not going to be handed the job, I think he's going to be really tough for this team. And Felicia, love Felicia. She agrees with me on this. Dan Moore Jr. is the 8 for her as well. I really think so. I like that pick more than I think about it. And guess who his workout partner was in the offseason?
Who's that?
Kendrick Green.
Oh, there you go.
I don't know how they knew each other. They worked out like crazy, and they didn't go to the same school. But
and apparently they both love the block for the run, which is what you want.
Yeah. So I really love that these guys are going to come in. And it's really important when you're fighting for jobs and you have that cohesiveness with somebody too on that offensive line. I think of two guys that were drafted, and Farlap's going to bring them up in a super chat. And it made me think of this. When I think of the 1980 draft, the number 5 pick of the 1980 draft was a lineman out of Syracuse named Craig Wolfley.
Yeah.
Who do you associate with Craig Wolfley?
Tunch.
All the time. Tunch.
Tunch.
The number 6 pick of the 1980 draft.
Yeah.
So you have the number 3 pick of the 2021 draft and the number 4 pick, both linemen of the 2021 draft together. I'm going to associate these two together, even though they didn't go to the same school. And Tunch and Wolf didn't go to the same school. Tunch went to Indiana State, but you always associated with them back then when they were playing and now too. And they were best buddies. So that's really interesting there. But Farlap gives us $5. He gave me less money for my butt. I would assume Farlap might be a lady. I don't know. Male or female doesn't matter. We're all black and gold here. OL pad level needs to improve. Promote Tunch and Wolfley to get OL pad level. If they can learn the technique running game, we'll go. Those guys are great at the pad level. Sometimes they show up. And they're there at camp all the time because they're calling it. Sometimes they help out a little bit. The health situation with Tunch is very dire. So blessings out to Tunch and Wolf as well. So there you go. I still haven't gotten my voice back, Tony, from the draft.
That's okay. I mean, you did a great. You all did a great job over the weekend, but you were on all weekend practically.
Well, we joked about this. My reaction to one of the picks was loud because it wasn't the position that I wanted.
I watched it. I watched that podcast.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to talk about this guy. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this guy in a little bit because I think might be one of our cards here. But so I'm not going to bring him up now. And I love the player. It just wasn't the pick that I wanted at the time, but we're there. I just want to jump in real quick. Reginald Rivers. Hey, Bad, pick a number you think Green will wear. I have done that, but I'm not going to put it on this show. I'm going to ask you guys go to the editorial side. It should be probably tomorrow, the next day. I usually do the numbers article every single year. And this year somebody wanted it. And it was Michael Beck, the live mic. Michael wanted it. I said, Michael, I take it every year. Usually I'm trying to give articles away. I'm like, hey, take my articles, please. I said, this is my favorite article that I do every year. So let's have a little contest. You and me, we'll go head to head and we'll pick the numbers. Well, we know that 2 years ago, we were like 5. I was 5 for 8 when I did it. Last year, I was only 2 for 6. I was sure that Chase Claypool was going to get number 83 because he wore number 83 in college. They gave him number 11. But we know we're going to have one right already because Najee Harris already has his number. He's officially number 22. That was the worst kept secret.
It's a great number too.
Yeah, it's great. One of my favorite Steelers of all time was number 22. One of my blue collar Steelers, I call him, the one that you're not going to consider in the Hall of Fame, but John L. Williams from the mid-90s.
I was trying to think. Was it him? Yes.
I love John L., one of my all-time favorites. Too bad he wasn't a Steeler from the beginning. He was only there for 2 or 3 years, but he was a Pro Bowler in Seattle. Just great as a fullback. Man, I love that guy. So let's go ahead. And James Galway says, I heard that down here in Laurel, Maryland. Me being in Maryland, and I'm probably about an hour from Laurel, but my wife wanted to call the neighbors and tell them that I was okay, that it was all right, because I probably screamed 5 no's. I did scream 5 no's. They counted. And a certain expletive, which I shouldn't have, because it was a knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
Because
I wanted at him too.
I was all set on Creed Humphrey.
Yeah.
But little did I know Kendrick Green was coming in the 3rd. Here's the thing. We scout all these guys. I did not know enough about Kendrick Green. But I will say this. This is why you check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Because last week on the War Room, Matty Peverell on the audio only side featured on his big board, featured Kendrick Green. So I love it. I mean, he picked this guy out. And other guys were picking out Pat Freiermuth, the pick I'm talking about. And we'll talk about him a little bit more in a little bit. But I want to go back to my 8 of clubs, wrap that up. Dan Moore Jr. I kind of like that pick. And here's another guy that I don't think we were too familiar with. I knew the guys like the James Hudsons, the 4th rounders, Spencer Browns and guys like that. But I did not know all these guys. Alan Goddard, I haven't read this yet, gives us $9.99. Thank you so much, Alan. We really appreciate it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but last time the Steelers took a first-round running back and had a dominant defense, they won the Super Bowl the following season.
Oh, wait. Mendenhall.
Well, they won. Yeah, they won that season. Yeah, they had definitely had a dominant defense, and yeah, they picked a runner at number 1. We haven't seen them pick runners number 1 a lot. There was a stretch where they did a lot. Back in 1979, they picked Greg Hawthorne out of Baylor. In 1980, in the 8th round, they picked Frank Pollard, another favorite of you. I know you love him. I love
him. Yeah.
Out of Baylor. In 1982, they had a first-round pick, Walter Abercrombie, out of
Baylor. And what can you say about those 3 guys? The first one, they had to convert to a receiver. The second one, or the third one, didn't have much of a career. The 8th rounder, Frank Pollard, he was one of the best, maybe their best runner of the 1980s.
The number 6 rusher in Pittsburgh Steelers history. A lot of people don't know that. Let's go to another super chat here before we move on. Dave Shipley, drafting from me is like my wife leaving instructions. Bet she does it better in the Steelers I trust. Yeah, I like that, Dave. Because I'm getting to the point where I wish I was in that room. I wish I knew what they were doing. Not that I could report on it, just so I could know, so I could look into some of these guys.
Yeah.
But now we're looking into them. Now we're looking in, and there you go. Ezra says Abercrombie was a bust. The thing about Abercrombie, he was picked 2 picks behind number 12 overall. Yeah. 2 picks behind Marcus Allen.
Great player, obviously.
Yeah. How interesting would have that been? But they didn't pass on Marcus Allen. At least they didn't pass.
He was gone. Yeah.
So let's go ahead. Let's look at the Joker. It's the questionable pick, and I think a lot of people probably have the same guy. I have the guy who my questionable pick is, because I don't know a lot about him. I'll say it first because you may have mentioned him before, and it's Buddy Johnson. Devadrick Buddy Johnson. Get to know his first name. His name's Devadrick. I just didn't know. I just don't know enough about him, but people are correcting me when I say that, saying that this guy is actually going to be pretty good. But Tony, I have a feeling I know who yours is going to be, and I'll let you go ahead with it.
Isaiah Loudermilk, the guy they traded with the Dolphins and moved back into the 5th round. The only reason why I say that is because he seems a lot like Isaiah Buggs and Carlos Davis, somebody they could have gotten in the 7th round, maybe undrafted free agent, and yet they traded and I'm not married to draft picks like a lot of people are, but the fact that they traded a future 4th round pick to move up into the 5th round to get him, I have to wonder why they did that when they probably could have waited. But like I said earlier before the show, somebody obviously knows something that we don't, and there's something about him that they like. Maybe it's the defensive line coach, maybe it's Keith Butler, maybe it's Mike Tomlin, maybe it's one of the scouts. Somebody saw something in him that they feel he could come in and be something. They can develop him, but as of right now, he's the Joker as far as I'm concerned.
So I got to bring up some of these comments. They're gold. Louder milk, 2% more louder than other milk. NDR. This one's classic. If I can get it up. Here we go. We lost a bud, but got a buddy. And John Trent says that. John Trent likes that. I'll bring up John Trent. That's great.
I actually wrote that, and soon to be coming out article.
You wrote that too? Awesome. So, okay, good. So we know you said that. Here's let me bring this up because I'm not sure what this one is because I'm losing it, but Badage says massive hail and tornadoes are here. I have to tap out and take the fine bad.
Wow.
Warning signals are going off and there are no basements in Texas. See ya, taking cover. I didn't know that's where Badage was. Be safe, Badage.
Be safe, man. Wow.
I know we have those warnings here in Maryland too. We have tornado warnings in Maryland as well. Though the weather is getting nasty. So be safe, Badage, and anybody else who is dealing with weather. That's because this is that season that you do worry about those sort of things. So yeah, Loudermilk, it's just a guy we don't know about, and I understand that everybody said, a lot of people said, well, we could have gotten him maybe as an undrafted free agent. Shannon White was saying that as a priority free agent. Here's the thing about that is you can't guarantee that they're going to come here. You can't. I mean, because when they're free agent, they can go where they want. So that's why you see guys. That's why they picked the punter. They wanted the punter, and they didn't want to give him a choice. We talked about Carlton Hasselrig, who was picked in the 12th round in 1989. We talked about this guy. He had free agent offers before the draft because nobody thought he was going to be drafted. Cleveland was one of them. Pittsburgh was interested, and Pittsburgh said, hey, it's a 12th round pick. And they had, I think, like 13, 14 picks in that draft.
Yeah.
They're like, well, yeah, let's go ahead and let's make sure that he doesn't have a choice. Let's take him. And so that's exactly what we did. So there's one that I didn't put on the list here. And so somebody's mentioning it. Let's call it the steal pick, the steal card.
Oh, you want me to go, or you want to go first?
I'll let you go because I think I know who the steal is for you.
Oh, I couldn't believe this. The numbers on this guy, Quincy. I hope I'm saying his last name correctly. Roche.
You got it.
Yeah, Quincy Roche from Miami via Temple. He spent his first 3 years here.
Yes,
really productive.
Look at his Temple numbers. They're incredible.
Yeah, and I saw this when I was researching him. According to Pro Football Focus, he had 104 pressures over the last 2 years, which according to them, the most by any defensive player in college the last 2 years. So, I mean, do with that what you will, but that's a pretty intriguing stat.
He may have hurt himself. He definitely may have hurt himself by transferring.
Yeah.
But maybe not, because you get a high-profile look when you're at the University of Miami. When you're at the U, people are looking at you a lot more than they are at Temple.
Absolutely.
But what happens, this is what happens when you transfer for 1 year. You're going to kind of take a step back because you haven't been through the program. And it's just like trading a guy, trading for a guy right before the season after camp is over. Mm-hmm. It takes them a long time to get involved. I think he still had 4.5 sacks at the University of Miami last year. And there was some other, Jalen Phillips was there. There was another guy from the University of Miami as an edge rusher that was picked too. So they were loaded with him. So I will say this. I think he was an absolute steal. Let's go ahead and take a look at the wild card pick here. Do you want me to go first on this one?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't care that he's a second rounder. I think the wild card here is going to be Pat Freiermuth. We have some people from Penn State on here that have talked about how much we're going to love this guy. My buddy Doug, texted me right away. He goes to Penn State games, lives up there, and he's a Steeler fan as well. And I mean, one of my best friends we've been following drafts together since we were in high school. And he's like, man, we are going to love Muth, and you're gonna hear the sound Muth when he catches the ball, and I think he's going to be fantastic. So my dismay was because it wasn't Creed Humphrey. I did not know what was going to happen in the third round. I love this pick now, but the reason I'm going to say he's going to be a wild card, he could be just another tight end, or he could be a superstar. And I'm thinking that this guy, we're hoping he's a Travis Kelce. I mean, some people have called him Baby Gronk. They've called way too many people Baby Gronks over the year. I don't like that. James Galway says Baby Heath. He could be a Baby Heath.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Tony?
I'm glad you said it, because we have another one we agree on. That's what I was going to go with for the wild card. I think people are they're saying Baby Heath and everything, but and Heath was dynamic in his day, and if he was playing today, he might have been a slightly more tantalizing pass catching target, because he had a really good skill set. But I think Freiermuth can be something. He could be something really special. People are talking about the blocking with this guy, and obviously that's an important thing. That's one of the reasons why they drafted him. But I mean, he could be he has a chance to be a good weapon downfield. He's athletic. He loves contact, and he's, from what I read, he's quote unquote not lacking in self-confidence. So I mean, this guy could be something special. I think he could, like you said, he could be like a superstar if he develops. He could be the juju of this draft, somebody that comes along and is so that we didn't see coming, as far as somebody who could be really productive.
All right, so we've got a lot of comments on Muth here. Ben will use Freiermuth as a blocking tight end more than a passing weapon. At first, Mule, I'm going to agree with Mule Skinner for a second. At first, as soon as Ben completes 2 balls to this guy, he's going to love him and he's going to use him, because Ben has to feel you out. And once Ben is comfortable and has your number, he doesn't lose it. He did the same thing with Vance McDonald. It took him a long time to get on the same page as Vance McDonald. Remember the comment I just made about having a player that comes in a trade.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. He didn't play in that 4th preseason game in 2017 when he came over. I'm talking about Vance McDonald. But at the end of that playoff game, it was all Ben to Vance, and Ben loved Vance.
Yeah.
So I could see that happening. Let me bring up some of these comments real quick. Jerry Cherry, excited about these players for years to come. Tyler W., over under 5 TDs to Muth. I'm going to say over. I really will. James Galway, soft hands that actually catch. John Trent, Freiermuth is a Baby Kelce.
There you go.
This is a good one here. Shaquille Gregory, dominant persona. They said that he was having health issues. Yeah, he had those shoulder problems, but he's fine now. And this is one of my favorites here. Dallas Quinley, a baby T-Rex is still a T-Rex.
Amen.
You gotta love that. So I'm still calling him a wild card. A lot for what Mule Skinner said. It's got to give him time. But once Ben finds him, that's when Ben finds him, the wild card kind of ends. And I think he can. I think he'll be a stud for this team. Now, since 2004, the Steelers have picked 3 tight ends from Penn State. I'm sure you know the one easily. The one from 2015, you could probably spout out just like that. Jesse. The one from 2004, Jesse James. Yep, you got it. The one from 2004, if you could spout that one out just like that, and your eyes are closed, so I know you're not Googling it.
I'm trying to think.
He wore number 88.
I don't know.
Matt Kranchik.
Oh, I never would I have gotten that.
He came in the Ben draft. And I went to a game in 2005, and I was like in San Diego, and I was on the visitor's side. We were on the 50-yard line. I was about 7 rows up, and I could not see because Matt Kranchik was standing in front of the bench right in front of me the entire time.
That big.
And he was huge. He was a big dude. So there you go. So that's kind of my wild card there. The other guys we didn't touch on. We touched on almost everybody. We really didn't touch on Trey Norwood. That's a guy that they announced today that it seems like, well, they didn't announce, but it's speculated that he is moving to safety, which is interesting because a couple guys that they picked up as undrafted free agents, I absolutely love. They're both at corner. The one is Shakur Brown, who I had a grade in of around 4th rounder for him from Michigan State. And Andrew Wilbar. Let me give props to Andrew Wilbar. Andrew, who's also known as Steeler Fan 11, along with Rylan B. and I believe SNW on our editorial side. They did all these scouting reports. I thought were fantastic. I used them and I gave them credit for them, but I used them when I was doing my Know Your New Enemy articles. So I wanted to put their scouting reports in there on the articles. So thanks for the help, fellas. It was really nice to have them included because I could put some my thoughts on these guys, and I do. I just put my little blurbs, and some of them are sarcastic, some of them funny because that's what I try to do. But these guys had good scouting reports, so I wanted to include them as well. So good job to that trio on the editorial side. Thank you so much. Great volunteer writers for us here at BTSC. So Tony, these guys I'm talking about, Shakur Brown is one, and another guy that if you're from Pittsburgh, you know who this guy is. You know who his family is. You know, I believe a nephew of Sean Gilbert, maybe, and a cousin of Darrelle Revis, Mark Gilbert from Duke. I watched some highlights from him. My goodness, he is a good corner. He was hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt, so
he could possibly be a steal.
Yeah.
And I would love to see what he does. I really love it. So Shakur Brown and Mark Gilbert, those are two guys that I'm really excited about as well. We have a super chat here from Tyler W. I am excited for first and goal with Ebron, Muth, Juju, Claypool, and Najee all on the field. Wow.
How are they going to stop that? There's no way anybody can stop that. Too many weapons right there.
And if the line gets it together, and we're not saying that they can't, the line can get it together, and if they do, they have the opportunity to run block a whole lot better when you've got hopefully a full 16 out of Dotson, a resurgent David DeCastro, a healed Zach Banner. They should be able to run the ball better.
Yeah, and as far as, I don't know what, like, I'm obviously not an expert, but like the shade that people keep throwing over Shooks the last couple of years, or on Shooks, I don't understand, because he started all last year. Granted, Banner was hurt, but they've trusted him in the past to start too. So I don't please tell me what makes him such a bad tackle. I just want somebody who knows more about it than I do to tell me about Shooks, because I actually like him. I'm excited about him and seeing what he can do at left tackle this year.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't get down on a lot of guys. But I would go ahead. I would always pull for Zach Banner over Chooks. And Lance and I would argue about that all the time. I was definitely one, and I believe I had the same argument with Dave and Jeff. I was just a big Banner guy.
Oh, he's a great personality. Yeah. Over
Chooks. And it's funny. Those guys don't compete. They're best friends. And he told us that on his interview. I mean, they are the best of friends, and they know that if one gets one spot, the other's going to get another spot. And even last year, one was going to get the right tackle, while the other was going to be the tackle eligible. Mm-hmm. So bad equals baby Dave. I'm older. I'm definitely older than Dave Schofield by quite a bit. I would say I'm 8 years senior of Dave Schofield. I'm not the oldest one on the team. He'll probably get mad at me for saying this, but Coach is older than me. KT Smith is older than me. Shannon might be. Shannon White might be just a couple months older than me, and I'm a couple months older than you, Tony. So there you go. But I've got more
day next week.
But yours?
Yeah, next week. Schedule day. It's my birthday.
Oh, May 12th?
Yeah, that's it. Me and Steve Winwood.
Oh, bring me your higher love, Tony. So hey, let's take care of a little bit of news today, real quick. And I know the biggest news that everybody's concerned about is the after 23 years of marriage, the divorce of the Bill and Melanie Gates. So that's I don't know where they went wrong there. That's going to be very interesting. But no, let's talk about some Steeler news here. Steelers signed DeMarcus Acey officially out of Missouri. He's a safety. They had to let two guys go. Corliss Waitman, the punter, which kind of makes sense because drafting a punter, you have too many punters there. Waitman was on the practice squad all of last year. Charles Jones, the tight end, as well. And the biggest news in Steeler Nation is the Steelers declining the fifth year option for Terrell Edmunds. Now, this does not mean that Terrell Edmunds is not on the team in 2021. Doesn't mean that he's not on the team in 2022. All it means is that they're not going to go ahead and pay him the $6+ million that he would be getting that year. They are going to roll the dice on him. And they're going to see how he does next year, and then they'll make a decision. That's kind of one of those things that when you do that, you're rolling the dice.
Absolutely.
It's a gamble. He could have a great year next year. I kind of like what he does there. Dallas Quinley says, is Killebrew the new possible safety? Miles Killebrew. Who knows? But we don't have to worry about that. You're going to see this guy playing for a contract. If he's not playing for one for the Steelers next year, he's playing one for another team. So we don't see that very often. We saw that with Artie Burns, where they declined to give him the fifth round. We saw it with Jarvis Jones, but we don't see it very often whatsoever. I'm kind of surprised, Tony.
Yeah, me too. My first thought was $6.7 million for a starting safety in the National Football League, somebody who would be going into his fifth year. It seems like, on the open market, if you bring somebody else in, I mean, what are you going to be able to pay him less than that? A different safety that you want to be the starter? I mean, those guys make $5, $6, $7 million a year, right? So, but I mean, a lot of people think that that's too much. So I don't know. I was surprised too, because he certainly is a couple of levels higher than Artie Burns and Jarvis Jones as far as his what he's been able to do since they drafted him. So yeah, I was pretty shocked.
You know what? I'm surprised, but it didn't change my day whatsoever. I'm neither here nor there on it, because it's going to shake out, because you got to think about with the fifth year tender. I mean, those guys, they can still leave. They're still leaving after that fifth year.
Right.
So this is just, they're not guaranteeing him the fifth year is what they're doing. They're basically telling him that we're going to let you go into free agency earlier, or we're going to make a play to keep you. But it's not the death knell. It's not like you're cut. So he's still here.
Right. Yeah.
So, and you've got Minka, who came out. They just guaranteed Minka one, and two other guys that the Steelers, all the fans wanted the Steelers to trade up for in that draft. Mr. Landon is it Landon or Van Der Esch?
Van Der Esch.
Layden, I forget his first name, but Van Der Esch with Dallas, and Rashawn Evans, another inside linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. They did not get those that fifth year option picked up either. So it's really interesting, and they aren't considered busts as well. But right. That's just the decision that was made. So with that being said, I've got one last thing to talk about, Tony, here. And I don't know if you know what today's date on the calendar is. It's May 3rd, which doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to anybody unless it's your birthday or your anniversary or something significant happened on that day. But tomorrow, it's not really a significant day, but in pop culture, it's a huge day. May 4. May the 4th be with you. So with that, you are going to see something special on the second half of the Scobro show tomorrow night. It is kind of going to be like an after party, but it's going to be on the second half of the Scobro show. Rich and Dave, the Scobros, are going to have the May 4th, the Star Wars Day mock draft for the Steelers. Wow. They're going to draft players for the Steelers. And I got to say this, they're going to wrap up the draft tomorrow in the first half. But if you want news all the time, you're getting draft news and draft recap on every single show. You're going to have them on every single one here. We're just going to have some fun on that second half of the show. They might have some special guests on the show too. But join those guys tomorrow for the second half of the Scobro show for the Star Wars mock draft. It's going to kind of wrap up the draft and celebrate Star Wars Day, May 4th. I will tell you one guest star that is not going to be on it, and it's going to be Jeff Hartman, who has never seen a single Star Wars movie whatsoever. And refuses to.
Wow. He's not buying into the phenomenon. Well, that's how I am with The Godfather. So there you go. So we're going to have fun with that tomorrow. And so if you want all of your Steelers draft news, all Steelers talk, you're going to get it on the first half of the show. On the second half, they're going to have some fun, well-deserved fun. And I think you'll have fun with it too, because they are going to be debating and what they're going to debating some of these picks and where they should play and why. And if you're a fan of the movies, it's just going to be a blast, or it's going to be a blaster. So for Tony Defeo, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. We had a lot of fun wrapping up the draft here on The Hangover. We will be back next week as well. But for Tony, my name's Bryan once again. We ask you to do 3 things. Be safe, be true to yourself, and always be behind the steel curtain. And just when you think you've got all the answers, we keep changing the questions.